Hello, and welcome to Industrial Automation Asia's webinar series. I'm Sharifah Shalomsa as your host and moderator for today. Before we begin, we would first like to thank our sponsors. They are Info, a global leader in business cloud software products, and Aviva, a global leader in industrial software. As you know, the APAC region is one of the global hubs for manufacturing and accounts for nearly half of the worldwide manufacturing output. As one of the most significant contributors to Asia-Pacific's economy, it is also undergoing a rapid transformation where many low-end manufacturing firms from other parts of the world are increasingly moving their operations to Southeast Asia to cut costs. Following the COVID-19 outbreak, manufacturers operating in the region is expected to adopt Industry 4.0 operating procedures to become more agile and reduce production and distribution shortfalls as a strategy to carefully navigate the COVID-19 pandemic uncertainties. Despite rising growth, 57% of manufacturing leaders say that their organization lacks skilled workers to support digitization plans. Another survey found nearly 3/4 of respondents have less than 2 years of ongoing smart manufacturing experience, and 70% say they are making slow to minimal progress on their smart manufacturing roadmap. Growth objectives such as reduced time to market and increased revenue was lower on the list of enterprise priorities. In this webinar, we invite our panelists to share their insights, strategies, and show how to onboard integrated market-ready solutions in this critical new normal period where we call the era of acceleration. We will invite our first speaker to talk about these challenges and how to position a vision for connected future with a smarter factory at the center, enabling profitable growth, supporting future agility, and empowering efforts towards sustainability. Let's welcome our first speaker, Mr. Mervyn Cha, Director of Solutions Consulting at Info. Mervyn joined Info in 2013 and currently leads the Solutions Consulting team in ASEAN. Joining Info as a technology platform lead for APAC, Mervyn continues to be a strong advocate for Info's technology framework and key strategic thrusts, constantly delivering Info's key strategic messages to customers and partners alike. Prior to joining Info, Mervyn had been spearheading a wide range of customer-facing projects, which entail systems delivery, integration, as well as enablement.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for taking time to join this session on our discussion around the factory of the future, connected, smart, and sustainable, and the relevance of Industry 4.0. My name is Mervyn, and I represent Info. And for the audience who are not familiar with Info specializes in delivering industry-specific software application services in the cloud that's powered by AWS. Info is an organization that is headquartered in the US, but we do have presence in the Asia-Pacific region, and Singapore is the regional headquarters. Before we start talking about the discussion in details, I thought it is relevant for us to consider why do we even consider the components and constructs of factory of the future, or even Industry 4.0, and why do we have to worry about Industry 4.0? Just to take a quote from Charles Koch, the founder and owner of Koch Industries, who owns 100% of Info. Charles' view of technology is such that it sees that an opportunity to unlock new potentials, as well as a chance to enable continuous innovation. And in his own words, it's really about adopting it and doing it. If not, we will end up in a dumpster. And I think this falls through with a lot of industry leaders. And if you look around, it's really about the embracing technologies, right, to make a fundamental difference in the business that they operate in. But it's not just technology alone that's going to play a big part in terms of how an industry or any form of any enterprises actually transform themselves. But it's rather a combination of technology and change management that's pretty much aligned with the enterprise strategy to deliver the right sort of outcomes. And these outcomes at the end of the day is really about addressing and meeting specific industry challenges that the enterprise operate in. And if we look at in the last 24, 30 months, we have gone through quite a fair bit of challenges before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and right now, as we transit out of the pandemic in itself, we are still seeing quite a fair bit of challenges on the supply chain, resulting in incremental costs and supply chain shortages all around. As such, if you are a manufacturer, it would be typical that you experience quite a number of challenges. And in our experience, we have seen quite a number of unique challenges that manufacturers typically face. Some of them falls through and last through the test of time. Things like, for example, operational productivity, where the goal is to really, have a efficient and effective way of using materials, the balance of labor, equipment, and so forth to meet customer demands in a profitable fashion. And that also translates to in meeting the demands of the customer, which is evolving very rapidly as time goes by. If you consider traditional business models and mindset, the customer expectations these days have moved away from a traditional product-centric sort of go-to-market relevance to a more personalized and service-related sort of offering. In that sense, the pressure to actually meet and converge product management and experiences, right, to deliver the last mile customer experience becomes a norm. Consider traditional e-commerce mechanisms. We started off with B2B, where effectively talking about business to business sort of transactions and business collaboration, to the B2C model. And in this time and age, it's really going towards hyper-personalization, right? With the rise of hyper-personalization and the influx of information pieces, data pieces, customers now becomes more aware and have the more and greater expectations when they deal with suppliers and vendors themselves. So that also increases the complexity in managing products as they deliver right out of the factory floor into the customer's doorsteps, right? And that puts a lot of pressure in terms of getting the margins right and to deal with the evolving supply chain as well. And supply chains now becomes a need to have a more resilient sort of posture. The time where we talk about optimization is slowly shifting towards resilience. And we can see it very clearly with the price of transportation getting higher in recent times. And there are often risks to supply chain due to shortages and so forth. And the shift in the decision between sourcing as well as to make continues to be a main consideration for manufacturers to consider as well. While all these pressures are mounting and the expectations are rising, manufacturers are still faced with a dilemma with all this and balance it out in order to deliver the right sort of customer outcomes and commitments that they have put forward to their customers as well. And then from a product angle, the pace of innovation and change is also accelerating, right? The lifespan of products are getting a lot shorter. This is also forcing manufacturers to rethink their traditional methods in acquiring information, feedbacks, data sources, and so forth to kind of roll out the next product to be made available into the market. And manufacturers will be challenged to think about new innovative ways to acquire such details and data. That becomes a nice feedback loop. And in that sense, also allows the sort of automation to take place as well, so that the entire decision-making process can become more fluid and more automated, and increase the speed in which a product goes to the market is actually reduced. And more commonly, we are also seeing the evolving phase of industry regulations or even trade regulations for that matter. And manufacturers will continue to be facing this sort of challenges as they operate in the market space, right? It could be along the lines of sustainability, the effective use of energy, resources, and so forth. All these needs to be reported and needs to be transparent, and manufacturers would definitely have need to actually look at better ways to actually address and be very transparent as to how the entire manufacturing of the products actually takes place. But despite the fact that the manufacturers are facing such challenges, what we are seeing still is that there's really a mixed bag of adoption, right, in technology to actually address some of these challenges here. We can have a spectrum where, folks who invest pretty much in adopting and embracing new technology to, downright, or with still existing legacy systems, right, existing in their backyard. So when we talk about folks who have actually invested quite a fair bit, one of the challenges that phenomenon, if you will, that we often see is the fact that there are a lot of disconnected systems. When we have a situation of a disconnected systems, chances are it limits quite a fair bit of visibility and collaboration that can potentially happen within the walls of the enterprise and beyond as well. And that in a way also hampers the ability to make use of data to drive insights for better decision making. And the lack of insights is also the flow and velocity of digital information that can potentially go down to the ground to actually quickly address the customer demands and queries, for instance. And the ability to kind of respond effectively to regulations and compliance are also hampered. The lack of digital information due to disconnected and fragmented systems down there. And in most cases, we have also seen a very isolated platform adoption where the entire information orchestration and supply chain, for that matter, is still housed internally, where there's no effective way to digitally connect to trade partners and customers alike. And that also means the ability to effectively orchestrate the supply chain when scenarios do happen just couldn't take place at all. Even the ability to plan and forecast is just non-existent. But more commonly, what we are also seeing in the market space is the reluctance, right, to kind of like put working capital into the technology areas, which are more relevant to kind of like deliver and to derive the sort of outcomes that they need. And of course, we still see pockets of industry players pretty much still adopting to the old technology set. And this is really hampering them from really moving forwards. In most cases, the systems are just not agile enough to keep up with new business models and the dynamics of the market that's constantly evolving, right? So in that sense, if you look at all the different, characteristics of manufacturers today, we start to wonder, when we look at Industry 4.0, what does it really mean to manufacturers or enterprises in general? I think a good way to look at it is really about finding adopting the right sort of technology as a core capability to kind of complement and align with the operational strategies. And IR 4.0 becomes, a combination of that strategies and technologies to facilitate, the right sort of outcomes as desired to overcome all the challenges that we mentioned earlier on. And, in the market space, there are a lot of different buzzwords down there, ranging from, cloud adoption to adopting smart manufacturing. And more commonly, is we often hear, let's digitally transform, digital transformation, right? But what does all this actually really mean? And how can one kind of approach that whole IR 4.0 journey? A simplistic approach would be to look at the operational spectrum of the enterprise. There are definitely opportunities where one can identify areas of focus and where they can actually define the sort of outcomes that aligns with these bottom line strategies that the enterprise is looking for. It could be something that is in relation to meeting customer expectations and product innovation, where you introduce a very systematic approach to product development and R&D, for instance. It could be a case of harmonizing and getting supply chain visibility across the enterprise and connected to your trade partners through a integrated network platform that allows you to orchestrate your supply chains effectively on the global scale. It could also mean, an opportunity to explore the transition from a product-centric sort of organization into a service-style organization that we spoke about early on, to provide the hyper-personalization as well. There are different opportunities that definitely exist in the different pockets in the enterprise. It's really about identifying which are the ones that actually make sense, and then adopting it and converging with the technology to complement it and to reach the sort of outcomes that one will actually desire. A more simplistic approach to consider will be automation as well. And what do you mean by automation, and what does it really make a difference? Right? If a traditional enterprise relies on a manual process to collect data or to collect data or information pieces, they're still pretty much captured on pen and paper, and you are carrying this pen and paper details right around your factory floor, your shop floor, for instance, or even right down to the sales or procurement office for that matter. That whole decision-making process is actually delayed, right? What the enterprise would need today is really based on real-time information that is capturing data information pieces coming either from machines or terminals and being fed back into an enterprise system at near real-time speed that facilitates that true operational visibility and reporting. And that also translates to the ability to make decisions on a real-time basis. And the capturing of data and information and the automation that goes with it also presents another opportunity, right? The opportunity to have preemptive views of potential incidences or problems that may surface as part of the whole production line, for instance, right? To allow a better way and a more insightful sort of collaborative environment to allow different folks within the enterprise to come together for resolution and to resolve issues before they become a bigger one, right? As the saying goes, if you just leave a matter to kind of like, be existing down there, it will slowly snowball and evolve and morph into a bigger problem. And what that also means, if when the problem becomes too big to handle, it becomes a really poor customer experience downstream as well. The automation in data collection and data management also presents an opportunity to proactively surface and to send out alerts to different aspects of the business. Supply chain planning, for instance, can be notified and to reconfigure the whole planning to balance demand and supply. And obviously production scheduling can also be more reactive when you have preemptive or more proactive sort of notification alerts coming to all the different planners as well, right? So at the end of the day, it's also thinking through how the enterprise can kind of digitize and automate the enterprise as well, right? But the word of caution here, digitization is not just about, converting and making every single aspect of a business to be digital or to be going digital. As Rajan Kohli rightly said, it is a misconception of digital transformation is all about going digital, and we are forcing every aspect or facet of the business to be digitized. Instead, consider what are the key areas that needs a reimagination of experiences, and of course, what are the desired outcomes, right? So there's no question that digital technology helps organization to open new doors to innovation, right? The technology is certainly involved. The cloud, for example, is readily available on demand and it's low cost, and it takes away a lot of maintenance pressure when it allows you to scale, and the ability to hire and to manage it. It just pretty much actually reduces when we go into the cloud, right? But at the end of the day, it's also about making sure that whatever technology posture that one takes and adopts is really taking the really first step. And that first step is to understand what are the desired outcomes, right? So which are the typical outcomes that we can potentially explore? For a start, at the enterprise level, what are the common business requirements, if you will, that transcends across the entire enterprise? Is it the drive to have more flexible enterprise structures, which allows entities to be set up from a sourcing posture to a more make posture where we can have intercompany trade? Or is it about having a consistent set of processes that is uniform across all the different entities with a consistent set of business control? Or is it really about, automating the process of data collection or even matching for that matter, using common technologies like OCR and, RPA, robotics process automations, to kind of like facilitate and to augment work processes? Or is it really to come together to have the sort of full compliance that one actually desires within the enterprise? Regardless of these requirements, it could be more than what we have actually discussed, right? At the end of the day, it's also driving and moving towards a posture where the business can be very agile to meet the evolving landscape and the challenges that we spoke about earlier on, right? And if you're a manufacturer, for instance, you definitely need to want to consider what kind of manufacturing style that you have actually adopted. Are you on the spectrum where your complexity of the products that you manufacture is pretty high, with a high degree of complexity, but with relatively low volumes, like in a project manufacturing scenario, where we potentially will want to manufacture the products within the confines of your premises, and then eventually go down to your customer site for the final assembly? Or are you in the other end of the spectrum, where you have relatively low complexity in terms of the products manufacturing, but the volumes is significantly higher than you expect in a project manufacturing setup? Depending on different manufacturing styles, clearly the demands to meet with requirements planning, as well as the entire process of sourcing, will definitely change. So you do need to consider what are the digital systems that can help you to support whichever end of the spectrum you are on when it comes to manufacturing. And it's not uncommon to see a lot of manufacturers adopt different manufacturing styles that can revolve around these different quadrants that I mentioned about. Even as a supply chain, can we potentially think about a responsive, a sense and response style of supply chain that is intelligent? But in order to do that, it's also thinking through whether we can have a means to have that interconnectivity with, number one, with our business systems, as well as the devices that are really available in the IoT framework, and even with our trading partners as well, in a harmonized way, where all this data can be merged together, harmonized, on a real-time basis, to allow that data movement to actually flow freely and fluid, seamlessly right across that supply chain, to provide the end-to-end visibility. With the data that has been collected, obviously, the ability to predict, becomes more obvious, right? We apply artificial intelligence and machine learning to augment the entire decision support process. So that becomes a more prescriptive means for folks on the ground to make better decisions, because these are all floated up and the insights are readily available. And more importantly, with all the data insights that's been made available, it creates a more collaborative culture where it allows the entire execution to take place more seamlessly across the entire supply chain as well, right? So at the end of the day, it really starts off with thinking through where the imperatives are, and start to take a more holistic approach towards technology. As such, a digital operations platform might be a solution forward, right? So considering that we do not live alone, and probably 80% of our data resides beyond the walls of our enterprise, it makes a lot of sense to have a digital operations platform that is really open, that's supported by the core business systems that we have. The ERP, for instance, is a core business systems that helps you to facilitate the entire process through automation and often accuracy, and more importantly, governance as well. Obviously, there are niche applications in the market space that kind of addresses, deep capabilities that are required within the enterprise. But to support that is also the think through of how the entire user experience can actually evolve to create the sort of efficiency and better outcomes, right? Through analytics and even the adoption of applied artificial intelligence and machine learning, which kind of like augment works. But the reality is, in order to have the analytics and the insights, or even the use of machine learning, it requires a fundamental rethink of how data management can actually occur, and how you can actually be interoperable with any other forms of systems that actually resides, be it the third party trading system or your legacy in-house built system. All these brings fair bit of data and value, right, in that whole decision-making process as well. So the enterprise application platform, forms that collection of capabilities, not just at the last mile from a process point of view, but it's also the ability to really connect the dots to deliver and surface up the right sort of information pieces for users to take and make better decisions. Now, before I end, I thought it's good for me to just re-emphasize. At the end of the day, it's really about the goal. The goal here is really to harmonize technology with the operational strategies that every enterprise has. And I will definitely encourage you to continue searching on ways that progressively improve the desired outcomes of the enterprise as we face all the different challenges going forward. Technology will continue to evolve for sure, right? But the choices and will be a plenty for you to take advantage of and to make. However, embracing and aligning on the technologies to the enterprise strategies needs to take the first step, and the first step starts today. I hope my discussion today has been useful, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
All right, thanks, Mervyn. Our next speaker will further showcase the vision for a connected future through a day in the life of an operator and how Aviva technology has and will continue to support their journey towards operational excellence. Our next speaker is Mr. Jeremy Kiwi, the Director of Product Marketing at Aviva. Jeremy is the Director of Product Marketing for Aviva's Operations Control portfolio, which includes its HMI, SCADA, and Enterprise Visualization portfolio. He has worked with software and hardware companies spanning marketing, sales, product management, and development focused on oil and gas, telecom, and high-performance computing.
Thank you for joining today's Industrial Automation Asia webinar, Talking to Smart Manufacturing in 2022. My name is Jeremy Kiwi. I'm the Director of Product Marketing for our Operations Control portfolio of software, inclusive of our HMI, SCADA, and visualization offers that extend from the edge to the enterprise. Really happy to be here as part of this esteemed panel of speakers talking to you about the market and solutions ready and available to you and your teams that can help in your digital transformation journey. As part of this conversation, I'm going to take you through the day in the life of a manufacturing operator and speak to how we see the industrial environment evolving and how manufacturers can empower your workforces. First, just to set the stage, I believe we can all agree that resilience and agility have become crucial to ensuring companies stay competitive in today's market. Whether looking at the supply chain, planning and forecasting, data platforms and connectivity, or workforce skills and the shift with them, what is clear is that organizations need to be able to ensure that their operations are set up for success and have the visibility and teams ready to support them through any future disruptions. Just seeing that 90% of organizations are modifying their supply chain networks speaks volumes to their future preparedness. Specifically today, I'm going to be talking to you about aligning teams towards operational excellence. Aligning each team through consistency and a shared operations environment instills confidence and increases operational awareness so that teams operating closest to the process have the same actionable insights that roll up through the organization. Beyond just process control and visualization, teams benefit from collaboration, data analysis and reporting tools, execution capabilities, and common system management that leverages hybrid cloud and on-premises software, all aligned to the perspective of each team. This means that those on the plant floor or in the field are working towards the same goals, similar to those in the control room, and the same going for teams operating at headquarters or the enterprise. So today, what I wanted to do is provide that visibility around that day in the life of an operator, really having that visibility from the control room. We have worked to develop our Aviva Operations Control solutions to support our customers from those operating at the edge in the plant or in the field, those operating in a more supervisory capacity in the control room, and the C-level or analysts who need that enterprise visibility. In this scenario, I'm going to be talking to, or that I'm going to be talking to today, is really looking at the day in the life of the supervisor. And I'm going to go through that by sharing with you some of those key differentiators that can really impact an operator's life in their digital transformation. And I'm going to start by looking at a preview of their daily activities. And so the operator in this scenario, they're still at home, and they're looking for that visibility of really being given a heads up in advance of heading into the office. What our software can do is really help them understand what they're heading into and give them the ability to remotely access operational data that can really help set them up and get them moving as soon as they get into the office. And with that, and they can do that today with offers like Aviva Insight, part of our Aviva Operations Control solution. And Insight really, it's available on the cloud either via app or web, and it gives them that visibility with everything from alarms, process data, to graphics and trends, giving the individual all the information that they need as they're getting their day started so they know what they're walking into. After that, once they arrive on site, they're going to take some time to figure out, as part of shift handover, what's in process, what's going on, and really how do they ensure that continuity between going forward and that last shift. And that's where you're looking at something like Aviva Teamwork, also part of Aviva Operations Control. Example on screen right now, they're bringing up information that's helping show them everything that is happening. A Kanban view is really showing them what the rest of their shift is going to look like and how to hit the ground running. What is open, what's pending, and you know what that individual who's been working all night has been fighting in terms of any outstanding issues, and gives you that perspective and full info on what is happening on the plant floor or in their operations. And if you have people in your organization in that role, this is relevant to you as part of their digital transformation and giving your people the right information to operate. So I want to skip a little bit further into the day in the life and really start to look at potential changes in equipment operating state. This happens all the time. This is core to our business, and this is really what we are best in the industry at doing this. It continues to be central to Aviva Operations Control, and this is where HMI SCADA becomes central to the operator's story. We also understand that with systems like these, which are critical to operations, it is at times essential that these systems stay close to the operations where they're controlling, often on premises. This is where hybrid systems play a role, recognizing that control may be local, but operational data can be pushed to the cloud or central systems to be more available, more accessible across the operations. And then, so what happens when something goes wrong? What do you do? Directly within our system, you can access a call for help. And anytime you need help, you can request assistance from other people. We find that customers are asking for subject matter experts to be available, right, to answer questions across their operations. And in these types of scenarios, anytime a question is answered, right, anytime a question is answered, it goes right into your knowledge base and turns that troubleshoot note into future knowledge, so that in a scenario where your workforce is changing and individuals are joining or leaving, that information remains to benefit the entire organization. So recognize there are a lot of these different steps in a day in the life. We don't have time to go through them all, but just wanted to fast forward to the end of day, right? At the conclusion of a shift, there is a need within every organization for reporting, whether that's on that day, on that week, or the month. And as part of Aviva Operations Control, we have Aviva Reports for Operations. And that helps operators with all of their reporting needs, whether they are regulatory, shift-related, tied to sustainability goals. They can be web-based or PDF-based. This is all available. And so just like there's a lot more to be able to dig into with this, but we wanted to restate that what Aviva has done is recognize that many of these key parts of our customers' lives and of the operators' lives can be facilitated by ensuring that they are able to have the data, that they have that visibility, they have the control to make the right decisions at the right time. And that those and they're able to drive those actions and decisions on the control room, on the plant floor, and up into the enterprise. And when we talk about Aviva, many of our customers know for our HMI SCADA capabilities. We know that Aviva is known for our HMI SCADA capabilities. And what we've done here is really take that leap to go beyond HMI SCADA to operations control, something that really serves them over the course of their entire day, right? We also recognize that our customers' needs change, and we will continue to evolve and innovate. With the Aviva Operations Control subscription, our customers will get these innovations automatically. And as their digital transformation journey continues, we will be continuing right alongside them. So what I wanted to do is just speak to 5 of those kind of core facets around like our strategy with operations control. And as part of organizations looking to drive digital transformation in their operations, we see the need in the HMI SCADA space for collaboration and for collaborative development. And with that comes standardization, not just across displays or on one system, but across the plant floor, the control room, and enterprise, and really helps organizations simplify and maintain their systems through their life cycle. We also recognize that manufacturing facilities often have been built over multiple years, right? With differing equipment and systems in place over that time. And systems need to be able to, new systems need to be able to step in, take a standardized, open, and extensible approach, and be able to ensure that operators can continue to grow their operations. You want to be able to turn on a new line or even think a little bigger, like a new facility. That level of work or rework can be reduced significantly. And Aviva software and solutions are really built recognizing that need as an organization continues their digital journey. And then next up, operational awareness, and really more specifically, situational awareness. So we recognize that this is very core to who we are at Aviva, and we strive to deliver the right level of visibility to the users of our products based on how they need that information to be presented, whether on a panel on the plant floor, in the control room at a workstation, or with 8 monitors, or in the enterprise up on a set of screens in the CEO's office. This not only means that visuals have the right information, but in this age, they need to have the right context, right? So that when someone in the control room wants to look at how one of their plants is operating and dig into a specific line, that all of that data they are looking for is on the one screen or multiple screens, that it all adjusts to give them the right level of view. And then things change. Right? And certainly in today's time, things change quickly. And that's where operational agility becomes critical. Organizations have had to learn to adapt as many factors really impact them and impact both their supply and demand. And with that, they need to be able to react and act both proactively. And we've had customers that have had to scale up. Right? We've had customers that have scaled down. We have had customers that have had to pivot their business. And really what we do is with Aviva Operations Control and recognizing the digital transformation that our customers are on, that we work to align that and support being able to react agilely within their constraints. And this is also people. This is an important area for Aviva. We recognize that without your people, right, obviously your organizations can't run. We understand that the change in your workforce happens for multiple reasons. And the way that we work, especially now as organizations are progressing on their digital journey, they're looking at how to empower their workforce, right? As I showed you earlier, Aviva Operations Control is helping companies do just that through collaboration and knowledge retention. And then finally, with technology. Aviva's become a leader in this space for the last 35 plus years. We continue to investigate technology that will add value to our customers' experience. This includes us taking a hybrid kind of SaaS hybrid cloud approach with Aviva Operations Control. And we are also leveraging like advanced technology like AI and ML, where it makes sense, really helping to highlight the right decisions at the right times for your team so your teams can be focused in the right way in their day-to-day. Ultimately, our job is to make your job and your team's jobs easier. And we believe like with these 5 core principles that we're focusing on around operations control and around operational excellence, that we're focusing on the right things for you and for your business. So that said, we believe that what we have with Aviva Operations Control is unique for manufacturers and really brings together a broad set of functionality that enhances the day-to-day of running of industrial and manufacturing operations. You know, it isn't just HMI SCADA, right? It is way more, and it brings together our vision to support operators from the edge to the enterprise on their digital transformation journey. So with that, let me say thank you for your time today. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions or find me on LinkedIn. I would be happy to connect. Thank you and have a great day.
Thanks, Jeremy. And finally, let's invite our third speaker, Mr. Colin Cotlin. He's the Senior Manager of Business Development at LKH Prisicon Private Limited. Colin has more than 30 years of experience pioneering the latest technology within the ASEAN region, involved in the industrial IoT and M2M, automation, 3D printing, connectivity, energy, and environmental business since the mid-1980s. Colin provides mentorship and advisory services to the industry, primarily focused on regional SMEs implementing digital transformation in line with the emerging Industry 4.0 concepts. He is the co-author of Industry 4.0, Navigating the Manufacturing in ASEAN, and Smart Factory. Colin is a certified IoT specialist and alumni of MIT Sloan School of Management Executive Program in Artificial Intelligence and IoT.
Thank you. My name is Colin Koh from LKH Prisicon. Today, I would like to share the smart manufacturing with all of you. So what is smart manufacturing? According to Manufacturing Enterprise Solution Association, or MESA, smart manufacturing is intelligent, real-time orchestration and synchronization of business, physical and digital process within the factory and across the entire value chain. Resources and process are automated, integrated, monitored, and continuously evaluated based on all available information as close to real-time as possible. These are the key differences from the traditional smart factory concept that focus on production and expand to the whole value chain from raw material, input to the production floor, output to the marketplace and end customers. Smart manufacturing shall be vision and mission for manufacturing enterprise, constantly leverage the latest technology available to improve safety, productivity, efficiency, and ultimately profitability, whether we are in Industry 1.0 to current Industry 4.0 and moving to the future revolution. In the year 2011, IDC introduced the third platform from a perspective of information technology, or IT. The same year, the German industry announced the term Industry 4.0, representing manufacturing operation technology, or OT. Both highlight common technologies such as cloud, big data, AI, the Internet of Things, will change the way how we work and affect our daily life. The IT and OT primarily operate in silo with minimum integration. For more than 10 years, we are still trying to make two worlds converge and integrate. And it is still a work in progress for most enterprise and manufacturing company. The adoption of ICT in general manufacturing is traditionally behind consumer and other markets due to different priorities. IT emphasizes confidentiality, integrity, and availability. On the other hand, OT concerned about safety, availability, integrity, and confidentiality. Nevertheless, awareness is increased for both domains to work as a team to realize the smart manufacturing vision in the coming decade. We are expecting changes. The left side of the slide showcases a journey from a classic ISA 95 practice to transform into an Industry 4.0 based operations. I believe most of you are familiar with the ISA 95 model, which is an architecture consisting of 4 layers, generally grouping them into IT, which is the top layer, and OT, which is combined the layer below. The manufacturing industry has practiced this model for more than 30 years, knowingly or unknowingly. The main point for this model are, this is a mature model, and ISA 95 is about a standardized model enabling data exchange among all the layers. However, due to the nature of the business, we are still seeing a gap between the so-called IT and OT. This means while we can see the IoT is making good effort to integrate the OT layer vertically using smart sensor to collect the data from the machines throughout the processes. We do see the factory level integration while not integrating to the enterprise level. This is due to many reasons, including security, culture, legacy operation with significant investment in heavy equipments. What we can see from an industrial IoT platform-based operation is fully integrated operation from production, logistics, maintenance, sales and marketing that leverage Industry 4.0 technology. In this case, the platform plays the role of ingesting, storing, and managing the data from all sources, including the machine, facility, and environment. On top of the platform, there are technology to drive the data into analytics and build small applications, maybe 100 or 1,000 of them, called microservices. So all the operation, including the software and the hardware, will be offered as a service. But this is the ultimate goal of Industry 4.0 to achieve. This is beyond what we know as lights off factory. This is an autonomous operation supported by the cloud, robotic, AI, machine learning, and other technology. This doesn't mean that you need to disrupt all you have and build things from scratch as a manufacturer. Referring to the right side, I put a supply chain model, which you are very familiar with from the raw material supply, input, production, and output to the customer. The industry has been working on various technologies to improve efficiency throughout the decades. I've listed a few critical Industry 4.0 technologies that the enterprise can apply to the specific part of the process. The application of technology can be in value-added fashion instead of disrupted manners. For example, when you have a 1 million worth of CNC with proprietary protocol, you don't have to scrap the machines. You can always leverage the smart sensor to create data I/O for a better understanding of the machine and improve its reliability and maintainability. Digital transformation for manufacturing. I'd like to highlight the importance of interoperability to Industry 4.0. Interoperability means the capability of accessible communication between vendors and systems. Today, we see this mainly as integration challenges. That is, we see numerous incompatible protocols, complex configuration and maintenance, and islands of automation. Due to the legacy, we also see rigid infrastructure and vulnerability to system and network failure because of lack of securities. OPCUA was released to address and aim to solve these challenges, and has become one of the crucial Industry 4.0 standards beyond a protocol. OPC-UA is a platform-independent service-oriented architecture. They integrate all the functionality and specification into one extensible framework. The adoption of 5G network is another enabling technology to realize a real-time operation mission that mentioned in the smart manufacturing definition. Manufacturing as a service or MaaS is not a new concept that contract manufacturers are operating as outsourcing models since 2000. Integrating product with IoT, cloud, and cybersecurity, the MaaS can be adopted by innovative product sellers that potentially transform their business to servitization model. Smart Manufacturing 4.0 model. Industry 4.0 is revolutionizing how companies manufacture, improve, and distribute their products. Manufacturers are integrating new technology, including industrial IoT, edge computing, and AI, and machine learning, enabling deep analytics into their productions and operations. However, to realize a visible and measurable value to the business only when we integrate manufacturing process, advanced technologies, and modern organizations. Smart factory represent the combined value of technology and processes, which create a hyper-flexible, self-adapting manufacturing capabilities. As a result, the industry will see new form of efficiency and flexibility by connecting different processes, information, and stakeholders in a streamlined fashion. Meanwhile, smart operation is using technology enabler and automated connectivity and intelligence can effectively deliver improved insight and predictability through advanced analytics, moving towards autonomous operations. Furthermore, modern organizations must become smarter in response to new challenges, inferences, and opportunities. They must become more proactive, leveraging technology to improve how people communicate, collaborate, learn, and work to realize smart enterprise. These three pillars support the Smart Manufacturing 4.0 framework. Based on Smart Manufacturing 4.0 framework, addresses the individual smart components and bring up the in-depth knowledge to enable the manufacturing industry through a successful digital transformation. Smart Manufacturing 4.0 is not created from scratch. Technology needs to be outcome-oriented, showing proven business value. Companies that plan to move to Smart Manufacturing 4.0 were guided to conduct an assessment of digital maturity before jumping on the wagon. One of the confusion industry faces is how to deal with the disruption caused by the technology. Lean manufacturing practices in the last 70 years during the previous revolution still form the backbone and continue due to its robust philosophy. Integrated market-ready solution. 10 years since the Industry 4.0 announcement, we are experiencing more integrated and market-ready solutions that are industry standard-driven and available to manufacturers to adopt and scale up their operation by working with trusted ecosystem partners. The high-performance hardware and user-friendly software with no-code and low-code design to achieve smart factory, smart operation, and smart enterprise to realize a smart manufacturing vision and mission is becoming a reality. The manufacturing will adopt both hard and soft automation for end-to-end integration in various sub-verticals by combining related technologies such as edge and cloud computing, AI, machine learning, autonomous robotics, blockchain, industrial IoT, 3D printing, industrial robots, process automation RPA, for advanced and hyper automation to achieve both customer and employees experience. The assessment framework to identify the gap and planning of roadmap is essential for prioritization and competency building. Valuation model that considering activities of horizontal and vertical functional integration and readiness frameworks such as Smart Industry Readiness Index series will be a good starting point for decision makers. A successful smart manufacturing strategy cannot be sustained if it does not integrate with other supporting infrastructure, such as ICT, logistics, and educational institute to produce sufficient human capital. Moreover, in every industrial revolution, new skill and competency are required to operate the new system and business processes. Therefore, effective change management is needed in a form that's similar to a Smart Nation Master Plan. I thank you, and I welcome your questions during the Q&A session.
Thanks, Colin. All right, let's welcome back all our speakers to the panel for the Q&A session. Let's start with the first question. Earlier, we touched base on a survey that found nearly 3/4 of respondents have less than 2 years of ongoing smart manufacturing experience, and 70% said they are making slow to minimal progress on their smart manufacturing roadmap. What approaches would be relevant for the adoption of Industry 4.0 or digital transformation? Let's invite Marvin.
That's a good question. And if I was to look at some of our customers that we have engaged with over the years, right? It starts off with thinking about where the low-hanging fruits are that can kind of like deliver, the desired outcomes in the shortest time. And it's important because what you really want to do is, any initiative, any technology adoption, or any outcomes that you want to desire to have, you need to have the sort of confidence building sort of situations, right? So that when you actually roll out the second set of, subsequent set of initiatives to go towards IR 4.0 excellence, you now have a collective group within the enterprise to actually embrace that change. And remember, in my discussion earlier on, it's not just the technology alone, or the adoption of technology alone, but it's a combination of organizational change. And that organizational change requires quite a fair bit of communication to take place. And of course, when we see success down there, the enterprise will be motivated to take the next step and to really continue on that path towards IR 4.0 excellence. Right, that's one approach. The second approach, of course, is to probably rely on external literature or to take reference from industry peers. Right, nothing beats and give the comfort of knowing that you would have, an industry peer that has actually embarked on a similar track as what you're trying to do yourself, and you can take reference from them and obviously engineer the approach, right, that best fit your outcomes that you actually desire down there.
And how would an agile system look like?
If we consider what I mentioned earlier on, right, in my discussion, when we look at traditional legacy systems, it tends to be very proprietary, right? It tends to be very closed loop, and it's definitely, you're hampered by the ability to scale and to have the sort of security that you can actually desire. So that's why we talk about the adoption of the cloud, right? The cloud actually gives you and addresses some of these, traits that I mentioned earlier on. When we look at an agile system, we should be thinking about how it allows you to quickly adapt and to progress, right? As you navigate through all the different changes that you're facing right now. And of course, the system is able to not only address the outcomes that you have today, right? But also potentially what are the sort of desired outcomes that you might have in the future. So in that sense, you want to keep a core fundamentals intact, while still have the ability to, quickly pivot to another set of requirements and specifications that you can possibly have within an enterprise, right? And that part is also very coming close to the discussion point around the scalability aspect as well. businesses will grow. So you need to have the ability to scale up and down as and when required. So when an agile system is not just the ability to manage a process, but also the ability to scale and to meet the sort of demand in the longer term.
Now, if we take 2 to 3 steps behind, what are the considerations that would be useful in considering which technology service provider to adopt?
Okay, that's another interesting question as well. I think it starts off with thinking about the credentials of the service provider of the technology, right? Now, the good news is in this time and age, this sort of information is readily available, right? There are tons of industry literature and reviews that will give you a good sense of whether that particular technology service provider is indeed up to scratch, right? The second one is because you have the sort of literature on hand, you'll be able to kind of like, establish whether that provider has got a track record in providing the solution that's relevant for your industry, right? And why is that important? Having the sort of industry relevance and experience also means the need to rework or to re-engineer the solution to meet your needs in your industry has been taken care of, right? There's no need to kind of like re-engineer or, kind of like customize the technology solution to be fit for use in your enterprise in itself. So it's important to find one that is really close and then fits right with the sort of track record in serving the industry that you operate in. I think another aspect to consider is also about how open a system can be, right? The technology service or the technology system can be. Think about what I mentioned earlier on towards the end of my discussion. The enterprise application platform, for instance, is not just about having a core business system that is able to provide some level of process automation, governance, and accuracy in place. It's also about being able to connect to systems that are outside of your enterprises as well to form a complete feedback loop of information pieces. So choosing a system that is really open, gives you the advantage in collaborating very closely with your trading partners or even your customers alike. And I think the last one is really around the ability to scale, as I mentioned earlier on, right? So if a technology service or service provider out there can give you the assurance that the solution that they offer is able to scale, then I think you're in pretty good shape to really take on some of the challenges that you have today, and have the assurance and comfort to know that you now have a service platform, right? A technology service platform that can grow and scale with you in the future as well, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marvin. And now we would like to invite Mr. Jeremy Kiwi. Developing our digital transformation strategy is complex. So how do you get started with it?
Thank you for your question around developing our digital transformation strategy is complex. I'm not sure how to evaluate these offers or get started. So this is a great question, one that Aviva has thought a lot about. And this is actually part of the reason that we have gone down the path with Aviva Operations Control. We recognize that there are different jumping off points and different stages that each company are at. And specifically when we approached this, we wanted to ensure that organizations really had this ability to start small and to grow, and also be able to scale up or down or pivot based on their business and the market. So specifically, one area we have seen the industry start to adopt is around subscriptions. So the rationale being that they are able to test and evaluate and scale programs as they succeed without the need for significant investment. And subscription programs like Aviva Flex allow for organizations to redeploy licensing based on need. So with Aviva Operations Control, which is actually sold via our Aviva Flex subscription, that not only supports this, but has also taken this new approach to licensing by allowing users, by licensing by users, which allows for organizations to deploy as much software across their manufacturing operations as they need, across our HMI SCADA, as well as our collaboration and visibility and communication tools. And this really allows for companies to take that start small, and grow approach as they evaluate digital transformation initiatives within their organizations that lets them test, implement, and grow as that operational expense.
You talk about the digital transformation in a day in the control room. How does this look for a COO or CEO?
So how does this look for a COO or CEO? So yes, definitely recognize that a day looks different when you're looking at those having visibility or responsibility across the organization. And this is part of why we called out these users separately based on their need and their view for planning not being as near term and potentially looking to plan anywhere from real time out to 1 year or multiple years. So this is where having a holistic kind of enterprise view of the organization and being able to navigate and see information in context becomes so important. So one way that we see this is delivering enterprise visualization. That brings operational awareness and performance guidance with a single pane of glass in a software environment that supports broad decision insight. So this can help manufacturing leaders uncover previously inaccessible value by converging engineering, operations, and business data all in context, and really gives that view on global or regional operations from end to end. This is really about being able to understand how all of your plants are doing and being able to dig in on performance of a single manufacturing facility in context to analyze things like OEE across its lines and compare that against your benchmarks in near real time. This is delivered by our Aviva Unified Operations Center. Again, part of our Aviva Operations Control subscription offer as part of our Enterprise Edition. And I really do recommend you go take a look at what is possible as this offer has become the visualization front for many organizations for their digital twin and digital transformation strategies.
Thank you. And now let's invite Mr. Koh Kok Lin to the panel. You talk about the Smart Industry Readiness Index or the SIRI framework developed by Singapore. Is the assessment of enterprise maturity important by using SIRI, and why?
Yeah, the SIRI framework is now being promoted by World Economic Forum, so I'm sure it's a world-class standard. I like this series framework because I also have research into other framework. There tends to be more academic. SIRI framework, I think, is good for both SME as well as multinational because they are looking at a holistic approach in a way that all the area cover. That include, for instance, the processes, technology, and organizations. And they also have a very easy to use indexing framework that the end user can actually do the maturity framework assessment themselves. And a lot of these materials are actually can be downloaded free from the EDB website or the World Economic Forum website. So I think this is a very useful tool. In the past, I think a lot of SME especially, they are having issue in terms of identifying where is the gap into their manufacturing plant. Sometimes they just look at technology. Some of them, they just look at human resource. And some of them just look at processes. And I think this silo approach, it doesn't work, especially we are talking about smart manufacturing. They also use these 3 pillars to develop your smart factory, smart operation, as well as the smart enterprise.
What is the reasonable time frame for manufacturers to achieve a smart manufacturing vision?
I think it depends on the scale of your manufacturing facility and or your business operations. From big multinational, Sometimes they take 3 years to 5 years to achieve that dreams because their operation is very large and they have a roadmap, 3 to 5 years roadmap to develop a full-fledged smart manufacturing framework. For SME, their operation is much simpler. So sometimes I would say that maybe 1 to 3 years would be good enough. I think Singapore government have give a lot of funding and incentive for this SME to also develop the roadmap. So this is good in a way that without a roadmap, it's very difficult to visualize what you want to achieve at the end of the, let's say, 3 to 5 years, right? Where to invest? Do you have the people to sort of manage all these changes? Because we are talking about managing change. So it's not easy, right? So smart manufacturing is not a project or it's not a program. Actually, it's a journey that the top management have to commit to it, right? By investing time, by investing the leadership, and also develop a range of vendors that can help them. So I think 3 to 5 years for big multinational, maybe 1 to 3 years for the small SME, with the help of the vendors as well as the ecosystem partner. So I think that is achievable.
Are standards important? And how can ecosystem partners select the viable minimum standards to participate in the value chain?
I think standard is very crucial. Why I say that? Just imagine that when there's no standard, what the world will be look like, right? So for instance, we cross the road, the traffic light, these are all standards. So for a lot of manufacturing company, if they want to look for scalability and maintainability, I think they should look at the standard and they should select the standard that relevant to them, because different vertical, they have different standard requirements. So for instance, pharmaceutical standard is very different from, let's say, oil and gas or even discrete manufacturing or food and beverage. These are different standards you need to comply in terms of to ensure safety, right? But manufacturing standard, as I mentioned in my slide, some of the standard, for instance, the OPC UA is something that the manufacturing end user should consider, because without a interoperable data management system, it's very difficult to organize your data, right? So for instance, you may want to use AI, ML in the future, or even you want to use AR, VR. All these required data, right? So you need to ensure you have a data standard. So you have to work with your vendors, work with your machine maker, as well as maybe your consultant or advisor to ensure that your data management is in place, right, from the beginning. If not, like what everybody say, right, garbage in, garbage out. So I would say that standard is very important, and Singapore government is very concerned about the standard being used by the industry. So at the national level, actually, we adopt a lot of these common practices, for instance, the IEC standard, right, to ensure that when the industry scale up, they are able to scale properly, because without good data, without standard, it's not possible.
Your presentation mentioned the outcome of smart manufacturing is to build a smart factory, smart enterprise, and smart operation. Can you elaborate?
Okay, I think when people talk about Industry 4.0, this is a very general framework. So if you look at Industry 4.0, a lot of time they focus on technology deployments. But you must understand, if your processes are not in place, if your people are not trained, and your infrastructure at the factory level, at the enterprise level, at the process level are not in place, it's very difficult to achieve Industry 4.0. So this is why we take the reference from series, right? For instance, series looking at processes, technology, as well as organizations. But these three pillars, eventually they have to go into different areas. So at the enterprise level, you have to ensure that you are also embed all this latest technology to ensure that you have a smart enterprise. The processes is the same thing. So in the processes wise, we actually encourage people to look to lean manufacturing, because if you know that lean manufacturing is being used widely, right, in the past. And when you have a lean mindset, you have a lean workforce, to adopt technology to improve the process, to ensure your operating system is up to date. And along the way, the lean concept basically is to cut waste, right? So you have to cut all the waste that are not supposed to be in the process and also not being paid for by the customer. So I think this is something that we find that these are the fundamental best practice people have to try to understand and maybe embrace them. So lean manufacturing with smart manufacturing technologies, right? I'm sure that with all these different components, you should be able to develop a smart manufacturing. As I say, smart manufacturing is a vision, right? Meaning you can never say that I have a latest smart manufacturing, because technology change, right? And also environmental change. As you know that now supply chain also disrupted. So how to ensure you have a smart system, smart enterprise, smart organization, and the smart technology on top of it to leveraging from there. I think you have a maybe much better manufacturing enterprise, right? Look at the cost, safety, efficiency, and of course now everybody talking about climate change, how your factory can practice all this. So lean is one of the methods that actually allow you to cut a lot of this unwanted waste.
All right, thanks Colin, Mervyn, and Jeremy for joining us in this discussion today. We've come to the end of the webinar. We hope you've enjoyed this panel discussion about smart manufacturing in 2022. We would also like to thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all your questions. For the questions that have not been answered today, we will follow up via email. Till then, goodbye.